Thanks, Elizabeth. Hello and welcome everyone to the meeting today. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting and will be available to view on the Combine Authority YouTube channel, and if you can just please make sure that everyone uses their microphones when speaking. So we'll get into the meeting. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. I've not received any. Have you received any, Elizabeth?
I had an apology for Councillor Dave Merritt.
Thank you very much. Any others? Just that. Thank you very much. Item 2 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of June 2025. The minutes of the held are members content that the minutes are correct as of record. Thank you. Yeah, consensus. Thank you. Yeah. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone today? No. No. Thank you. Happy with this? Yeah. Agenda item 4 is public participation. We have 2 statements from the public today. One is from Professor Paul Gowders, which has been submitted in a written statement on the support of the Men's Mental Health Fund, which a copy of this can be found on the paper, on page 53. But we do have David Watson here today with us to invite to speak on this as well. So in your own time, David, you can speak.
As Chief Executive of North Yorkshire Sport, I'm proud to offer my full support for the creation of the Movement, Activity and Sport Fund.
Sorry, David's microphone.
As Chief Executive of North Yorkshire Sport, I'm proud to offer my full support for the creation of the Movement, Activity and Sport Fund. This proposed investment represents a vital step forward for our region, harnessing the power of movement, activity and sport to deliver real and lasting change for our communities. Across York and North Yorkshire, we face significant challenges. Over 30% of adults are not doing the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity per week, contributing to rising rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, poor mental health and cardiovascular disease. It's an investment into the health, well-being and economic resilience of our region. By making investments into both traditional settings, such as clubs and facilities, as well as those organisations who work with priority groups, but who would not normally access this type of funding, there will be an increased opportunity to ensure interventions are effective, inclusive and sustainable. A focus on priority groups, such as women and girls, those facing rural isolation, people with disabilities, and communities at risk of poor health or antisocial behaviour will turn the dial on reducing inequalities and open opportunities for healthy, thriving communities. The social return on this investment is predicted to be between £11.5 and £16 million. 4 key areas of this programme will enable us to projects and ensure that the York and North Yorkshire workforce, both from within the sector and from aligned services such as health and social care, is equipped to engage and inspire those who need it most to be less sedentary and more active. Beyond its impact on activity levels, it will also create the opportunity for volunteering, personal development, community cohesion, capacity building, resilience and pride in place. All of this builds upon, not replaces, the existing investment in York and North Yorkshire by local authorities, North Yorkshire Sport, Sport England and others, and it aligns with our region's health and wellbeing strategies and the Moving North Yorkshire framework. It will open opportunities for further external investment and position our region as a national leader in using movement, activity and sport as a driver for economic regeneration, community cohesion, improved quality of life and healthy, thriving communities across York and North Yorkshire.
Thank you very much for that, David, and thank you for doing that through such challenging IT issues that we had there. Thanks very much. And thank you for all the work you've done on that as well. It's been much appreciated. Thank you. Paul Gowder, Professor Paul Gowder as well, who's also supported for the Men's Mental Health Fund. His statement can be found on page 53 as well. Thank you, everyone. Item 5 is Mayor's update. That's me. Since our last meeting a few weeks ago, we've continued to work with partners on building our healthy and thriving communities across Yorkshire and North Yorkshire. Just earlier this week, I was joined by members and exec members for housing, members from both York and North Yorkshire, and Nick Aitken from the chair of York and North Housing Partnership to launch the first York and North Yorkshire Affordable Home Standard. That's a shared commitment for all affordable homes in the region. Will meet with a consistent high quality benchmark reflecting the needs of communities for years to come. Alongside my Deputy Mayor for Police Fire Crime, Joe Coles, I've worked with York and North Yorkshire Road Safety Partnership as we held the first Road Safety Month in the region. We've taken our message on the road, such as the Great Yorkshire Show, promoting the risks of the Fatal Five. The engagement is a key part of the partnership work to meet our ambition of Vision Zero and the reduction of road collision and fatalities and serious injuries on our roads. I spoke at the Active City Conference, which was held in York, alongside Chris Boardman, the UK's Active Travel Commissioner, discussing the importance of making our streets safer for children and young people getting to and from school. Through our local transport grant, we have already taken steps to improve active routes, introduce more 20-mile-an-hour zones and school streets. I launched a report into the future of farm finance at the Great Yorkshire Show last week. This set out the challenges facing our farming sector. It showed that over half of farms in the region do not make a sustainable profit. The report makes many recommendations on how we can support more farms to be profitable and improve resilience from external pressures. The farming sector is a vital, important industry for our region, and I'm glad that we have put it front and centre in our local growth plan, and which we will consider today, and I'll continue to work with Grow Yorkshire to identify how we can support them going forward. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the announcements last week. After years of delay, the Labour government have committed to continuous dualling of the A66, phase 1 of the York Outer Ring Road, A59 Keckskill, and to Haxby Station. It's incredibly welcome this announcement from the government have made to the commitment of infrastructure in our region. And I'm conscious that other schemes such as the dual of the A64 were not confirmed as part of this announcement. We anticipate that the government will make further announcements on the road investment strategy next spring, and I'll continue to raise the significance of this scheme to ministers ahead of this announcement. Moving on to item 6, which is the Movement, Activity and Sport Investment Fund, and I will hand over to the Director of Economy, Andy Kerr, to speak on this. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. So this report today sets out our approach to movement, activity and sport. York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority committed to seizing the opportunities of sport and lifestyle. Active lifestyle and shaping the success of the region. Problem with that microphone as well, potentially. The strand of work has been supported by David Watson from North Yorkshire Sport, who spoke earlier in the meeting, and it's been led through a steering group of industry experts and key stakeholders that set out a programme of interventions that have been developed relating to movement, activity and sport. This thematic priority is set within a wider portfolio of activity under the umbrella of healthy and thriving communities, which sits at the heart of our economic framework. To underpin the delivery of this activity, it's proposed to create a £2.75 million fund through mayoral investment funding. The aim of the fund is to reduce inequalities and improve well-being through increased participation in movement, activity and sport at all stages of life. With priority groups including participation for women and girls, rural inclusion and access, early intervention and prevention, and disability sport and inclusion. The steering group that has our region and nationally, such as North Yorkshire Sport, Public Health, Humber and Yorkshire ICB, North Yorkshire National Park and York City Football Club Foundation and the University of York. The £2.75 million investment fund will be applied across 4 areas of work that interrelate and will explore and extend our understanding and contribution to increasing movement, activity and sport within those priority groups that I set out before. The 4 key areas are designed to strongly position our activity as transformational and have an ambition to change the narrative and infrastructure which organisations such that inclusion is sustainably addressed and increased participation evidenceable. Across those 4 themes, we've got communication and promotion, which will use the Mayor's platform to promote the use of movement, activity and sport to improve well-being and reduce inequality. Enhancing the police and crime community funds with a targeted call for projects that are rooted in movement, activity and sport for early intervention. And inclusion. Difference by developing the skills of our workforce to better engage through movement, activity and sport.
Thank you, Andy. And again, we do have slight challenges with the microphone, so apologies to anyone watching if you don't quite pick us up. We are working through those at the minute. And yeah, just to expand on that, Andy, obviously, myself, I've seen the power of sport and activity as had on the whole. York and North Yorkshire is an active place, and both authorities are doing some great work. But we have seen with the recent active live survey by Sports England found that York and North Yorkshire, about over 30% has been touched on there, are not seeing that 30 minutes of activity a week. And earlier this month I was joined with mayors from across the UK in York with the Active Travel Summit, as I've touched on, but we also heard from the Chief Medical Officer Sir Chris Whitty about the impact of moderate activity can have preventing long-term health conditions, improving health outcomes and increasing life expectancy. And this is particularly important in our region where we have a higher than average proportion of people aged over the age of 65. So improved levels of movement activity can also help drive down pressures on our NHS and provide improved economic social benefits for so many people. This is an area that I'm particularly passionate about, and I'm pleased that the fund will bolster particularly our police, fire, crime, community fund to support more work in early intervention prevention work, vital work that diverts young people particularly away from crime. And I would just ask Joe Coles, my Deputy Mayor for Police, Fire, Crime, just to touch on this piece as well, if that's okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to just speak very briefly on this. I wanted, because it specifically referenced that £400,000 of the 2.75 million will provide prevention work around police, fire and crime. I just wanted to provide a bit of wider context for Combined Authority members in terms of the kind of impact that this should have around police, fire and crime perspectives. So prevention is one of the key priorities for the Mayor and I in terms of the police and crime and the fire and rescue plans, and therefore the prevention element of this is extremely welcome. This additional support in terms of the community fund, just to put it in the context of the funds as they currently stand, at the moment those funds total around £350,000 a year. So this will mainly fund small and medium-sized grants of up to £20,000 for projects that promote things like community safety and diversionary activities and crime and antisocial behaviour prevention work. This investment will enable us to double that, or more than double that, so that there'll be more than double the level of prevention and early intervention projects, small-scale projects that support small local community groups right across the region. And in addition, because it's referenced again in the report, our new Women's Centre in Scarborough, in addition to the centre we already have in York, will again be an opportunity to potentially build physical activity for some of the more vulnerable women and girls in our region. I also just wanted to touch on the workforce development element of this fund, because I've been saying for some time how depleted the youth workforce sector is, and that the number of paid professionals in youth work is around 20% less than it was 10-15 years ago, and as a whole that whole sector has contracted by over 3/4. So therefore the fact that there is some investment in this fund to rebuild the workforce in any way is a huge step forward. I also just wanted to draw members' attention to the work that the University of York and Dr. Anila Wellham have been doing in this area around youth provision, and particularly in York and Scarborough, because it highlights many of the issues that this fund will help to address. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And I say just a quick thank you from me as well to officers from both authorities and everyone who's been involved in putting this piece of work together. Really, that expertise and passion that's come through over the last few months has been great to see, and great to see that so many people wanting to commit time and energy into putting this fund forward and to help people right across the region. So I will now, after all that, invite questions and comments from members. Councillor Kilbane, we might have to share some microphones here just in case.
I didn't last. Oh, hang on, we're on. Yeah. It's microphone. It's okay. I think that's okay. And apologies to Norman Collier. Just a couple of words on this. Really welcome this fund. Really welcome this initiative. As has been said, the region is a very active region. You know, we're also very successful in sports. We are home to the most successful women's rugby league team of all time, and we are also hosting the Women's Rugby World Cup. It's starting in a few weeks' time, a couple of weeks' time it starts. So, you know, there are people out there who are really active and engaged, and with this fund, we need to be sending the message out to the people who don't think it's for them. Then you are the people that need to have a look at this and see if you can apply for it. And just to give an example of where this type of intervention can be really powerful, we went to visit the people at York Mosque recently because rather disturbingly they'd been victim of some horrendous racist abuse and crime while they were out playing tennis in a park. So we went to visit them at the mosque, and of course, being the kind of people that they are, their response was, well, we need to talk to these kids, we need to get them into the mosque so they can find out what we're like and who we are, and that actually we're just like them, because that's the way that they want to try and overcome the racism that they're experiencing. And while I was chatting to them, there was a bunch of kids playing footy on a scratchy piece of grass outside the mosque with literally jumpers for goalposts. You know, and I said, there is this new mayoral fund coming forward. And you know, well, you might be able to get, you know, some decent playing surface, a couple of goals, you know, maybe basketball hoops, you know. And it was totally off their radar that they thought that might be something out there for them. And I said, and if you do that, then you can invite those kids in to play football with you, because they're more likely to do that than want to come and talk to you. No offence meant. So they're really interested in it, and there will be lots of organisations out there that are making do with second-rate facilities who don't think of themselves as being sports clubs. You're exactly the kind of people we want to apply for this grant. So let's encourage all those groups to do so. So yes, very welcome. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. Any more questions or statements from anyone? Would you like to come in there? Councillor Dad?
11 million quid in social value was mentioned, I think, by the Chief Executive of Yorkshire Sport or something. I am right in that, aren't I? Can I just ask how we evaluate or come to the £11 million figure? And secondly, I suppose it's a question to you, Mayor. We're investing nearly 3 million quid into this project, as welcome as it is. How do you see that being regarded as successful? What are the performance indicators? All well and good having some goalposts instead of 2 jumpers, which I used to use when I was a kid. I can't say what's wrong with 2 jumpers, frankly, but that as an aside, what will tell us that 3 million quid or 2.75 million quid has given us for our buck? You know, what are the indicators that will move?
On the latter, like all funds that we put out, whatever it may be, we do have a process in place that does evaluate said funds to make sure that we are spending money wisely and we are receiving those outcomes. The pipeline of work going forward is that's what's going to be happening from now. But obviously, you know, some factors will be, say, for example, improving those participation numbers in. So, for example, if you have a facility now that doesn't have an offering of sport for women and young girls, which is one of the priority groups, because we know there's a huge drop-off of women and young girls post-school age into activity. If we are seeing that these sporting establishments or others that maybe don't offer a sporting facility, a sporting offering now, or movement sport offering now, are now being able to put on such activities that do support women and young girls into activity, then we'll be able to measure those numbers by those people coming through and seeing an increase in those numbers, as an example. But like all funds, we will have a full appraisal process after funds have been announced, after funds have been spent. So we are making sure that we are spending money in a wise way. But obviously, if we are seeing those active increased numbers in these areas, then that will be a great showcase of how the work's been delivered. On the exact number from David Watson, I will refer to David on that number, if that's okay, Councillor Bell.
Yeah, so in terms of the social return on investment, Sport England have commissioned a study which shows for every £1 invested into movement activity in sport, there is a social return on investment of £4.20. There is a second methodology used by an organisation called Sport for Good that actually show it at £6.60. So there are a number of studies being done on the social return on investment. So that's where those two figures of between 11.5 and £16 million come from.
Thank you, David. Andy?
Yeah, just wanted to flag as well that in the agenda pack we have included the full business case for the fund, our own internal business case, just for full transparency, and that does start to set out how they'll be assessed. It's got outcome indicators around physical activity levels, social and economic outcomes, and particularly sustainability, so how many programmes that are funded continue beyond the lifetime of the funding stream as well, because what we want to create is sustainable long-term change. And just to add, one of the things that we're required to do as a combined authority is have an evaluation framework which models all of these things and evidences across all our spend and gives assurance to government that we're driving outcomes and economic outcomes as well. So hopefully that just reassures as well.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, any further questions or comments? Are we okay? Okay, recommendations can be found on page 40 of the agenda back. So we seek a proposer and seconder for this. And can we move to vote all those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Andy. Item 7 is the Men's Mental Health Investment Fund, and again this will be report of the Director of Economy, Andy Kirk. And lean over to you, Andy.
Thank you. So, interlinked to the last item, relating to movement, activity and sport, the Mayor's also created a men's mental health task force. The leading cause of death for men under the age of 50 is suicide, with 3 in 4 suicides being men, and men's mental health being the principal cause of male sickness absence in the UK. In addition, York and North Yorkshire has a number of male-dominated professions that's particularly vulnerable and susceptible to mental health issues, such as farming, armed forces and our own blue light services. The task force has been led by Professor Paul Galdas, who's from the University of York and is an expert in this field, and has included the Department for Health and Social Care, national and local men's advocacy and support groups, and both local authorities and public health bodies. A £715k mayoral investment fund is being proposed based on the findings of the task force to explore and extend our understanding and contribution to improving men's mental health across the region. These interventions are designed to position the region as a national trailblazer for innovative activity in this area. And there are 4 key areas of work which include mapping our existing activity, so that'll be an early and rapid exercise to identify what provision already exists. Driving a narrative shift, so driving engagement with the national strategy and demonstrating regional leadership on the issue. Being a testbed for innovation, so leading by example and creating a workplace pilot within the combined authority, again noting that we have lots of blue light service employed, and creating a possible rollout of a framework for other organisations based on exemplar and best practice. And finally, investing in men's mental health, so a responsive grant fund to support organisations to make transformational change to their practice and offer.
Thank you very much, Andy. And just on this, I've been told very early on when I met some elected people, not in this room I might add, that I spend too much time talking about health and not enough time about economic development, but I couldn't agree, I couldn't have been more frustrated about that statement, because I was elected to represent all the people across the region of York and North Yorkshire, and the financial case to intervene in men's mental health stacks up, but more importantly, the human case stacks up. And I think if I'm in a position to be able to actually drive some investment and actually drive some change into this agenda, then I will do that every single day of the week. And I just want to, again, thank the officers for the work on this, in particular Professor Paul Gallas, and representation from the North York Moors, Menfulness, Movember, the Department for Health and Social Care, local NHS, Public Health, and both councils who have really fared a huge amount of work, and the yourself on this as well, who have really led this piece of work and done fantastic. I'd just like to again bring my Deputy Mayor Joe Coles in on this matter. Some carry over there as well.
Thanks. Thank you. And I wanted to pay tribute to the Mayor and the way in which he's campaigned on this over the last year. That is with the exception of the 5-kilometre runs every day last November. That I don't know how many people in this room had to do one of those runs as part of the Mayor's campaign around men's mental health, but thankfully, even though our fitness levels are not compatible, he did slow down for me, and I am still therefore here to welcome this fund today. More seriously, the thing I wanted to say around this fund was around a quarter of our domestic abuse victims in York and North Yorkshire are men, and actually for a man who is a victim of domestic abuse, the stigma of that and the impact on their mental health is significant, and we already support men through our domestic abuse services, but this funding will enable some of that work to increase. And we also know, on the flip side, that for male perpetrators of domestic abuse and other crimes, mental health is a huge factor, and therefore, in addition to the funding that's come from the government this week around, which will increase our capacity to deliver some perpetrator programmes around domestic abuse, we will also then be able to extend that around mental health support as well. We already have a crossroads service that's delivered here that enables us to intervene early and provide some mental health support for people who are at risk of reoffending, and then when you bear in mind the cost of a prison place being £51,000 a year, if mental health support for men can address criminal behaviour, then it's hugely economically beneficial. Just more widely, we know in terms of people have been asking me quite regularly how the Mayor's campaign around men's mental health fits with the wider campaign to halve violence against women and girls. And actually, I think they fit together absolutely hand in glove, because sexist, misogynistic attitudes towards women and girls don't come from nowhere. Men are victims. When men were victims as children, they are more likely to develop those kinds of attitudes. The impact of trauma in childhood or in later life has a huge impact on people's mental health, and is something that I think the Mayor is showing some great leadership in terms of putting some investment into this area. Just finally, before I pass back to the Mayor, the rural nature of our region, I know everyone in the room knows this, but it does make it more difficult for us to provide mental health services and support for people. We know that in terms of our domestic abuse service, but it's also going to be important that our men's mental health support also reflects the rural nature of the region and the way in which we provide support. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. I think that's working. Thank you, Joe, for that. Any questions or comments from members? Would you like to come in there, Claire? Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor. And I welcome this investment. There is no doubt that investment in the mental health of any and all of our residents is really important across the region. And I really welcome this opportunity for both York and North Yorkshire, but also particularly into York, where we have extensive community-based mental health partnership work going on already, and I look forward to seeing how this will integrate into that system that is being held up nationally as a groundbreaking and innovative way of delivering mental health services in the communities where people need them and want to access them as well. And accessibility of these kind of services, we know, can often be a barrier to accessing them. So it will be great to see this move forward, and thank you for putting it in front of us today.
And that comes, I think, to the strength of the body of work that's been done, how it's been really brought through from both local authorities, really feeding that work that's already going on, and how we can add value to it, and how we can have that joint approach to it. And I think that's the real strength of both this and the sports fund, is how it has been brought together from partners who are already doing a lot of really good work, and how we can really bolster it and add value to it. Question, comments, or are we okay there? Yeah. Recommendations on page 38. We seek a proposer and a seconder.
Proposed.
And a seconder. Move to vote for all those in favour. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy. Item 8, York and North Yorkshire's local growth plan. Again, report of the Director of Economy, Andy Kerr.
Thank you. I'm hugely excited to table the York and North Yorkshire local growth plan for approval. So this document is a key requirement of combined authorities to produce a local growth plan that sets out the region's key economic strengths, high opportunity growth sectors and shared priorities with government to unlock these sectors. I firstly want to thank all of our key partners who have helped in the development of this, both local authorities, stakeholders and our business board, who have all helped and contributed to its development. I also want to specifically thank both Andrew Leeman, who will talk to this as well, but in particular to Kate McHugh, who's here today, who's the driving force behind its development and has done a phenomenal piece of work. I'm incredibly proud that the government have also explicitly praised not only our local growth plan, but also the experience of working with us to develop it in partnership. As a new combined authority with a very lean team in this area, it's a great reflection on where we are and the work that the team have done. I'm going to hand over to Andrew to set out in more detail the plan itself and how we intend to move forward and help to drive delivery from it. But from my perspective, I believe that we've created a really clear articulation of a region's economy, our strengths and our huge opportunities. And crucially, I think the plan really does evoke our region's proud history and heritage in innovation particularly, and harnessing those strengths to drive our future economic growth. In summary, in Northern York and North Yorkshire, we are feeding the UK through strengths in food and farming innovation. We're healing the UK through our bioengineering and life sciences. We're powering the UK through our clean energy, connecting the UK through our rail innovation and AI capabilities, inspiring the UK through our thriving creative industries, and protecting the UK through our emerging defence and secure technologies. And all of that is growing the UK as York and North Yorkshire is the most productive economy in the north. Andrew, could you just talk us through in a bit more detail the next steps?
Yeah, yeah, sure, thank you. I think in essence, just to go through a little bit of a report, the original growth plan was presented to this combined authority in March, and we've been through a fairly hefty consultation process since then, and that's been really helpful in shaping what comes next. And in particularly, it started to identify some of the key activities that each of those sections will try to deliver. But I think the next step really is to take this strategy and start to move it towards a delivery plan that really sets out how we take those strategic objectives into really tangible activities and future investment, and how it attracts that future investment. So we intend to do this through, as I said, developing this delivery plan through further engagement with the members of the combined authority and the local authorities within that context. Working with our business board, so we are looking at business board champions for each of those competitive edge sectors, in addition to some of the other areas around the plan. So I've been something going past, and also the creation of an investor panel so that we can start to look broader at how we can attract investment into York and North Yorkshire, and to some extent working alongside the local authorities through directors and the departments to ensure that we get full delivery. So the intention is to have a delivery plan brought back to this combined authority in the spring of next year. I think in terms of that timescale, we were keen as well not to slow anything up. So we have recommended a fund of around £500,000 to go towards try to drive forward some of those competitive edge sectors. with some initial activities so that we can actually start to move on the growth agenda. So that's recommended in the report, and this will help to build on the previous fund that we had to support this plan, which has helped to get it to this stage so far. So I'd just go to the recommendations just to make sure I've covered all the points, but generally, it's really to acknowledge as well that the economic framework, which I think when we originally presented this plan to this combined authority, we were suggesting that this would replicate or take over that particular role, but what we're suggesting in this report, just as a change, is the economic framework is that broader overriding framework, of which the growth plan is a key document within it. So just to add that part of it, but recommend it to the combined authority.
Thank you, Andy, Andrew, and a special thank to Kate McHugh and Andrew Lehman, who've done a huge amount of work on this, and I couldn't imagine how many hours you've spent looking at that computer screen in the office, Kate, on this, but thank you for me and everyone for all the work you've done on this. Any questions or comments? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Cobain?
Yeah, just briefly, Mayor, and echo those thanks to Andy and the team. Great work, as you say, Andy. A very lean team has produced this work, and it's great to see. And it is a very measured growth plan, because obviously we can't have growth at any cost. I was just checking my sources, and it is David Attenborough who said we have a finite environment, the planet. Anyone who thinks that you can have infinite growth in a finite environment is either a madman or an economist. So apologies to any economists who might be in the room. So it is good to see that the growth plan recognises our planetary boundaries with a strong emphasis on decarbonisation throughout, not sat in one little section. Well, it is mentioned in the section on its own, but it runs through the entire growth plan. And it's also great to see there explicitly inclusive growth. We need to make sure that as we grow, it's good growth within planetary boundaries that takes everybody with us. It's got to be the kind of growth that raises the living standards of everyday people in our region. It can't, when we get growth, it needs to make sure that all boats float, and we're not just left with luxury liners going off out to sea while we're left stranded on the shore watching them go. So it's great to see inclusive growth in there. It's great to see community wealth building in there, central to it. We look forward to continuing the work that we've started around that area to make sure that the benefits of growth in the region actually are shared through all the residents within the region. So very welcome plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cobain. Any more comments or statements? Is that to come in there? Councillor Dodd?
Yeah, I welcome the plan as a strategic document, and, you know, it's a means to an end, isn't it? I just wonder, Mayor, if you'd be minded, it just sort of came to me. And it comes back to what I asked a few moments ago. How will we be judged with outcomes? So would it be helpful, or would you be minded to have a set of data in regular intervals, appropriate intervals, that maps the North Yorkshire economy against the national economy, and see if we're actually making any headway, if we're powering away or not. Some sort of data, because quite honestly, we can come up with all sorts of schemes to spend money, produce strategies, you know, men's mental health, as laudable as it is, and active travel and everything else. But unless they're actually achieving something for the people that Pete's just spoke about, why? You know, we need to know that we're actually delivering, and delivering means, you know, absolute benefits at the sharp end. Because if we're not powering above as a bit from our baseline against the rest of the UK economy, we're adding no value. So I think that's important, and I think we've got to be honest and open about that.
Andrew, I think there's a piece of work in there, but Andrew, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, part of the next part of the plan will be to set a very, very clear metrics that we will constantly measure and we can bring back to this combined authority as almost a dashboard of how we are doing against certain things. So that'll certainly be part of it. I have to be honest, within the plan itself, as we were developing it, we were trying to put some more numbers on some of those things, which are still being worked on, but actually the priorities and the principles are strategically the right things that we need to be doing. We just need to understand how we're measuring against those, and that'll be part of the next step.
Okay.
I welcome that. I welcome that we're going to have that sort of interrogation of the results, and I guess that's what the delivery plan is. We're going to see that in due course, but I wouldn't like to let the moment pass without recognising the enormous amount of work that's gone into getting us to this point. So thank you for that, Andy and Andrew and the teams.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions, or move to votes? Okay. Recommendations are on page 63. We seek a proposer and seconder. Yeah.
Happy to second.
And move to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, Kate, and Andrew for that. Item 9 is the local investment in natural capital programme, which will be delivered by Head of Strategy Andrew Leeming on this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this report really sets out an update on the LINK project, the Local Investment in Natural Capital Programme, and seeks authority to accept up to 650k of an additional sum from DEFRA to support that programme that we've applied for. Just as a bit of background, the York and North Yorkshire Local Investment in Natural Capital Programme, we were one of 4 pilots across the country back in 2023 as this was established. North Yorkshire Council acts as a sort of accountable body for this programme in North Yorkshire, and it's a partnership between the council, the combined authority, the City of York Council, and the 2 national park authorities, and there's been quite a lot of work to date as the report sets out progress on that. In particular, the programme was following a series of objectives. First one was really to set out a natural capital land use assessment, of which most of the work on that has been completed. Then to develop a pipeline of investable propositions, and again there are documents that have started to establish those propositions, and then finally really to engage investors and how we can start to lever the private investment into the natural capital to support the natural environment, and some of that work is ongoing. The report builds on this work to date and sets out the next steps really, and how and we received the opportunity to submit a proposal for a 1-year extension of the programme to DEFRA, of which we did together with the 2 authorities, seeking £650,000. We are still awaiting a response from DEFRA. What they've indicated is that there is around about £1 million to the 4 pilot schemes, so we may receive less than the 650, but that if we do receive less, we will set out either a reduced in scope programme, or we will seek additional funding, but we will come back to this combined authority if that is the case, if we can't find it under any existing funds. So I recommend that we accept the DEFRA funding if we are awarded that, which is looking positive, but we just don't know what the amount is.
We don't have a time frame scale on that when that's going to be announced, do we?
Imminent.
Imminent.
That's government speaking.
yeah, for whenever. Yeah, okay, thank you, Andrew, for that. Any questions or comments for Andrew Leeming on that at all? Come in there, Councillor Douglas.
Thanks. Yeah, Andrew, could you just outline to us some of the projects that are being taken place? And I notice it says landscape restoration and regenerative farming. Have you got any examples for us?
Not directly from myself. We can send some of those round as case studies if that will help, I think, to bring that alive. There are a number that are based around some of the river catchment areas, particularly around the Skell and the Ripon area. That's one of the projects that's been developed through an initiative where we're trying to look at how we can get investment from some of the businesses that rely on or rely in the area on things like tourism and farming and agriculture. There are some regenerative farming projects in the south of the patch, south of the Dales and into the moors that are examples that we would demonstrate. But what I can do is get a full list and circulate it around.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I'm just asking because I think it's helpful for the public to understand what this really means for them and why it's important. And I don't think we can underestimate the need to protect our natural areas when we have such a really large rural economy, particularly around farming, etc., and our tourism offer with our national parks too. And it's really interesting to see that the private investment area in this is really moving forward, and that it is seen as a way to essentially look after our landscape but also make money at the same time, which is a win-win. And I'm sure we'll all benefit from that protection of our environment that our children, our grandchildren can enjoy off into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any more questions or comments for Andrew on that?
If I can just ask Andrew a question. Will biodiversity net gain be counted as part of the investor contributions?
It's been looked at as part of the overall scheme, so there's a number of different elements of that. But what this project does do is it helps on that biodiversity net gain, because it can provide almost like a pitch book of what they can then buy into across the patch. So it makes the value. So one of the things that the natural capital investment, the planning side, the land use side of it did, was to start to actually put a value on that total investment, which could then be used. But it's linked up to the planning system in terms of the biodiversity net gain.
Because that could be very useful.
Proposed.
Thank you, everyone. Can we move to a vote? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. Item 10 is Governance Matters Overview and Scrutiny Committee Appointment and Transport Advisory Board Terms of Reference. Hand over to Paul Clark for this. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor, and apologies, I'll try to keep the title a bit shorter next time.
Yeah, that's ridiculous title.
Purely for clarity. This item, as you'll be aware, it's a standing item at these meetings to pick up on any housekeeping since the previous meeting. In this case, we have two matters for members' attention. These are both matters that are reserved to the Combined Authority. The first is the seeking approval of a Transport Advisory Board Terms of Reference. As members will recall from the annual meeting at the beginning of June, when you appointed members to the Transport Advisory Board, there were some formal matters that needed clarifying ahead of its first meeting. So they're set out in the agenda pack. The full terms of reference are at Appendix 1, so I won't read through those section by section, but the key elements of the terms of reference are to set out the purpose, which is to provide advice and recommendations to the Mayor and Combined Authority on transport matters, to facilitate collaboration with constituent authorities and other partners, and to further engage with devolved transport functions. The Transport Advisory Board will be a formally constituted committee of the Combined Authority under the 1972 Act, and with that come all of the trappings of a formal committee. So it will comply with our current access to information rules. It will be meetings in public, papers will be published, it will have a quorum of 3 members, and as it is an advisory board rather than a decision-making board, it falls outside of the normal rules on political proportionality. That allows members to appoint people like executive members and other independent stakeholders to the board. Prior to this meeting, I have consulted with both the Constitution Working Group and an informal meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee earlier this week, and there were two comments that came out of those meetings. The first was that we should slightly clarify the role of the business board representative on the board to clarify that they represent the collective views and experiences of the business community and not just particular industries. The second comment was a request that as the combined authorities transport functions develop, that we keep the membership under review, particularly to consider whether there's a requirement for regulatory representation for things like taxi licensing, whether we need anyone with particular skills, expertise or environmental expertise. So I think those are things that we could pick up through the general constitution review once we understand how the Transport Board's role develops. The second element of the report is another housekeeping issue, and this is two appointments to the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. As you'll be aware, it does have specific regulations that apply to the committee, which stipulate that it has to be politically proportionate to the whole of the combined authority area, taking account of the representation across the two councils as a whole. For that reason, I have had to review the political proportionality because there have been some slight changes at North Yorkshire Council. As it happens, the percentage allocations have changed slightly, but the actual entitlement to seats hasn't. So both of these nominations are fine. At the time that the papers were published, we didn't have the names formally agreed because they were subject to a full council meeting of North Yorkshire Council on Wednesday just gone. I have now got those for the purpose of recommendation 3 in the report. So that being said, nothing else to add to this, except to clarify that the names would be Councillor Paul Haslam in place of Councillor Kevin Foster and Councillor Derek Basterman in place of Councillor Richard Foster. So they will be the appointments to make to overview and scrutiny under recommendation 3. So happy to take any questions or comments, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Paul. Any questions or comments there for Paul on item 10? Okay, move to seconder and a proposer. And all those in favour for the vote? Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Item 11 is the forward plan again, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing formally to change to the submitted version in the pack. There will be some slight alterations coming to the September meeting. I think there'll be a general skills update, a housing update, and one or two other changes, but I will circulate a full version of the forward plan in due course.
Thank you, Paul. And the members happy just to note this is a piece, yep. Thank you. And item 12 is urgent business. Any urgent business? I haven't got any. No. Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for everyone here and everyone watched. The next scheduled meeting is on Friday the 26th of September at 3 p.m. Back here at North Allerton. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.